Let's turn to chapter 13, 2 Samuel 13, and page 21 in our study guide. I think we should start today because this lesson is 8 chapters, and it's all bad. It's really bad stuff. And we'll have to go really fast to cover all the high points. And you'll notice pages 21 and 22, there aren't any questions. It's just 29 key points from these chapters 13 through 20. And we'll do the best that we can with that. And when we study something like this, we probably think, okay, why am I reading this? What does this have to do with my salvation? What does this have to do with the gospel? What does this have to do with my influence in the gospel? And on you might question that. We've got to go back and remember, David was a man after God's own heart. He stumbled, he sinned egregiously, but he paid a heavy price for that sin. David was a good king. Things were really going well before the incident with Bathsheba. Israel and Judah had come together and recognized him, and the days were good. The days were good, and he ruined it. He ruined it. He despised God and ruined it. So when we read about all these effects on the family, all the dysfunction, the murder and all of that, sometimes we may lose focus that it's all about God. It's about God's power, His providence. It's about God's love, the wisdom of God. It's also about forgiveness. And I think when we study this, maybe we should go back and read, but we don't have time in the classes to do it because we have so much to cover. But Psalms 51 is probably a commentary we ought to read over and over and over again, because Psalms 51 is not just about the sin with Bathsheba. It's about all the wrongs that David committed. And the language is beautiful. Wash me, and I shall be what? Whiter than snow. And we sing that in a song, and it's a beautiful thought. So Psalms 51 really tells us where David's heart was. God can be so powerful and so forgiving. We want to keep all of that in focus here. David was forgiven. He was punished severely, but he was forgiven. A murderer going to death row, God in the blood of Jesus, a murderer can be in paradise, can be in heaven someday with the victim. That's powerful to think about.
But he still faces the consequence on earth.
Great consequences, great consequences. So if you fill in the blank there, God forgave David, but what?
Consequences.
And David was punished, and he paid a dear price. And Eli, before you comment, I want to start with Proverbs 13:15. It's a favorite of mine, and those of you who have been in my classes before know this, and you know that I quoted it in my announcements at school so frequently that I'm sure that the young people, they were young then, they're 60 now, but remember this. But Proverbs 13:15, good understanding gains favor. It's talking about God. Good understanding gains favor, but the way of transgressors is what? Hard. My grandfather quoted that to us often. The way of transgressors is hard. The New King James says the way of the unfaithful is hard. David was a transgressor, and some really dysfunctional bad things happened in his family. But the way of transgressors is hard, especially hard if we don't come to the Lord and get it right. Yes, Elon.
Psalms 51, I certainly agree with you on that. If I may just read 4 verses.
Absolutely.
Have mercy on them, O God, according to thy loving kindness, according unto thy multitude of thy tender mercies. Blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee and thee only have I sinned, which I consider greatness on the part of David.
Yes.
He recognizes, yes, these were horrible sins I did, but it's only against you that I did it.
Thank you, Elon. And we learn from this that we, in many respects, were not unlike David. We need that cleansing power, and we need to be humble. We need to understand, like David did. Now, we've got to finish last week's lesson, which will only take a moment. That's probably at the latter part of chapter 12. Remember, God said, the sword will never depart from your house because you have despised me. God took this very personal. And then he said, adversity is going to be in your house. And indeed, it was. And then on top of all that, he said, this child will what? This child's going to die. And there are those who say, that's cruel. Why would God take the life of this innocent baby? And there are those who see that as a stumbling block. And then there are those who don't believe in God who try to attack the Scripture and say, that's mercy? That's compassion? He killed the baby? To what do we say that comment? How do we respond to that? Jim.
The child did not have to live with the consequences.
Yeah. The child missed all the... Yeah.
He went straight to God.
Straight to God, and never knew the pain, the anguish that was going to be in this family for a long time. These things didn't happen in a week or two. This went on for years, you see. So the baby went straight to God. Straight to God. That's the only way we can respond to that.
If we could all be so.
Yeah. Paul said he'd rather go on. He would rather just go on now. We get attached to this life and forget that. We do. We just get attached to it. It's like we think we're hiding from God sometimes, you know. We think, you know, okay, they don't know I did this. My spouse doesn't know I did it. But you see, we trick ourselves into thinking that we hide anything from God. So having said all that, let's finish this last week's lesson, and then we're going to jump into Absalom and all of that. So the baby is very, very sick for 7 days. What was David's demeanor during this time?
Deep mourning.
Deep mourning. Praying, fasting, crying, won't change clothes, won't wash his face. He's in a pitiful state. And whenever the child died, the servants were afraid to tell him. They were afraid to tell him. So he hears them whispering, and they're over in the corner. And he says, is the child dead? And they said, yes, the child is dead. And David immediately did what? He got up, he washed, and he ate. He put on clean clothes, and he ate. And the servants say, well, what is this? You were distraught, now the baby's died, and all of a sudden you're refreshed. We'll come back to that thought.
I was
Doug?
just going to say one other thing. During the time while the child was still alive, he was pleading with God.
Yes, he was. He wanted that baby to live. He wanted that baby. That's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you. And so David's response was what?
While the baby was alive, he prayed and asked God. But once the baby was dead, he could not come back, but David could go to the baby.
Yeah, it's a famous quote, and one that we need to hold special. I can't go to him. He can't come to me. The child's gone. But I can go to him. We hear this often when we try to comfort those, and we hear it often in a funeral service or at a graveside. And it's very appropriate. Okay, now we come to chapter 13, all the way through chapter 20. It gets ugly. Who was Amnon? David's first son. Remember Ahinoam? First of all, Michal, the original wife, was taken from David and then given back to him. But later on, she accuses David of inappropriately dancing before everybody. And David said, I did it for God because he was so happy. So he said, she was stricken. She never had a baby. So then Ahinoam was the next wife. After her was Abigail. Ahinoam had the firstborn son, Amnon. Now, Absalom and Tamar were brother and sister. They were from the same mother, Maacah. So, Amnon and Absalom were half brothers. Same father, not the same mother. Tamar and Absalom were full brother and sister, same mother, same father. Tamar was what? Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Amnon fell in love with his half-sister. So much so that he couldn't eat. He was wasting away. He was skinny. And what's his name? Abinadab? Who was it? I got it in my notes here. Jonadab. Thank you. There's a lot of dabs in here. Jonadab said, what's wrong with you? I love my sister. So Jonadab comes up with this scheme. Crafty man. Comes up with this scheme. And by the way, with family, adversity in your family, David, Jonadab was David's nephew. He was his nephew. He was his brother's son. His own nephew advises Amnon, here, you can do this. And in short, told him to do what? Play sick. Ask the king, because you're sick, to let Tamar come into your presence and cook cakes in front of you and make them especially for you. And so he did. He got the king's permission. Tamar comes in. She's as innocent as she can be. She makes the cakes.
He's in bed.
He's in bed. He's acting sick. He's playing sick. But it gets worse. The scheme gets worse. He says, everybody leave. So he gets everybody out. And he says, come into my bedroom. And she goes in there. And she's ready to present him with these cakes that she's made. And he grabs her and he says, what? Come lie with me. And of course, she pulls back and says, oh no, don't do such a horrible thing. Don't do this. Leviticus 18, Leviticus 20, this is strictly forbidden. When you go back to Leviticus 18, you read this long list of things about uncovering the nakedness of family members. And it covers everything. It's long. Don't uncover the nakedness of your mother, your mother-in-law, your sister, your half-sister, and on it goes. It was forbidden. And those people who did that were cast out of the camp. But he goes a lot further than that. She said, don't do such a horrible thing as this. But he did what? You can say it. He raped her. He raped her.
In her begging, she even went so far as to say, if you go to the king and ask for me, he'll give you to me.
Yeah.
Give me to you.
Which probably wasn't true, but she's trying to get away. She's trying to get away. Just go ask the king. He'll give me to you. He grabbed her. He forced her. That's an ugly scene. This is the king's firstborn son and a beloved daughter, a beautiful daughter. Okay, the way of transgressors is hard. And now he hates her. Why does he suddenly hate her? He loved her. He couldn't eat. Now he forces her, and now he hates her.
Guilt.
Absolutely. She didn't want him, so he hated her. She didn't want any part of him, so he hated her. He had to force her, so he hated her. And he kicked her out. Get this woman out of here. Her life's pretty much destroyed. Yes.
Verse
Frank.
13, though, in the bad part, he said, now therefore I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. So apparently David had the power to make that a legitimate relationship. And with her saying what she's saying, I don't think she disliked him. She just didn't want him to do it in an improper manner.
Yeah. Yeah. She resisted him. Let's just leave it at that. She resisted him. Whether or not David would have done this, it would have strictly gone against the law, but David's done that before. So that wouldn't probably have stopped him. You're right. He had the power to do such a thing. She's trying to get away. So she puts ashes on her head and she tears her beautiful robe that all the virgin daughters wore, this multicolored robe. She's tearing that. She is distressed. She is pushed out. This is an ugly scene. And then Absalom, her full brother, says, what's wrong? He said, did Amnon do this to you? He was very angry. But he told her, he said, don't take it to heart. In other words, get over it, get over it. Just get over. Yeah, it's easy for him to say. Just get over this. And in his mind, though, he's got what planned? Vengeance. He's got vengeance. And for this hatred in Absalom lasted 2 years. He waited 2 years to kill his brother, Amnon. And he set it all up. The sheep shearers were all gathered, and he even set it up. He knew David wouldn't come, but he invited David to come. David said, I really can't come. You don't need all us coming down there. It's just be a burden on you for all the brothers. He said, well, can Amnon come? And David said, yes, Amnon can go to this gathering, this sheep shearing. And not only did Amnon go, but all the sons went. And so basically, to make the long story short, and we're going to have to make a lot of long stories short here, they get him drunk and they kill him. Not the brothers, the servants of Absalom kill Amnon. It's revenge. It's a revenge killing, something he's planned for a long time. He's hated him for 2 years. Why it took 2 years, we don't know. We don't know what happened in that 2 years. There's a lot of years here. We don't really know the details, but he killed him. And so the sons all got on their mule and rode home. No telling what they were thinking. They just saw a brother murdered by a brother. The way of transgressors is what? It's hard. News gets back to David. How do you feel about it?
He thought all the brothers were dead.
Well, at first, the first messenger that came back told him that story, that they were all dead, and he was in a terrible shape. And then Jonadab comes and says, no, they're not all dead. Just Amnon is dead. David still mourned for his lost son Amnon. Did he punish Absalom? He was displeased. The Bible says that David was very displeased with this thing, but did he punish Absalom?
And he hadn't punished Amnon.
No, and okay, good point. He hadn't done anything about Amnon either. Parents covering for children.
Shows a weakness in David.
It does show a weakness in David. He's going to be confronted about this in a very big way a little bit later, but yeah, it does show it. And this brings me to the Bryce Carlton story. And for those of you who have been in my classes before, you'll just have to bear with me and hear it again, and then I'm going to get to you, Scott. Bryce Carlton was a sophomore at Gibson County High School. He was a good old boy. He was from Spring Hill. Everybody in Spring Hill took care of everybody in Spring Hill. It was a little country community. You probably got them like that here in Cumberland County. But in Gibson County, if you were from Spring Hill, everybody in Spring Hill would cover for you. So Bryce is on the absentee list. And you know that as administrators, we make phone calls. Unless there's a flu epidemic or something, you can't call 200 people, but we call. So Mr. Aker, assistant principal, he calls Bryce's mother. She answers the phone. Bryce is not here. He's on the absentee. We're just checking on him. She said, oh, he's sick. He's sick at the stomach. He's in the bed. She covered for him. About that time, Mr. Akery saw through the office glass. There's Bryce walking down the hall. This is a problem. Parents lying and covering for children. I saw it for years. It broke my heart. She lied. We confronted Bryce. I missed the school bus. I caught a ride with Sam or Joe or whoever, and we were running a little bit late. She said he was in bed sick. David didn't do anything. It was a mistake. He loved Absalom. He loved him greatly, and he overlooked all of this. Big, big mistake. Go back to the sword's never going to depart from your house. Adversity will always be in your family, and it is. And so David is caught up in all this. Now, Scott.
I don't remember reading this, but did David actually know what Amnon done to Tamar?
Yes.
Yes, he did. He was displeased about it. The Bible says that he was displeased, but the Bible doesn't say that he did anything about it. So maybe we're reading too much in there, but my reading into that is that he really didn't do anything. And this is terrible. This is a daughter being forced sexually by a son. It's pretty bad. Yes.
If he had Amnon had real consequences, then maybe Absalom
Absolutely.
wouldn't have,
Maybe David could have nipped all this. Could have stopped it all if he had banished Amnon like he was supposed to do. But he didn't.
Another factor could have been David didn't want this being public. He wanted to control the narrative or whatever. He didn't want to air the dirty laundry, the family dirty secrets or whatever.
That's right. Cover-ups always make the problem worse. Almost always a cover-up. Cover-ups are bad. Other comments? Yes, Garrett.
The version that I'm looking at, in 13:21, it says, when King David heard of all these things, talking about Amnon and Tamar, he became very angry, but he would not punish his son Amnon because he loved him, for he was his firstborn.
Very good, very good. That was his problem. He loved him, and he loved Absalom even more, as we're about to see. So Absalom, he runs away, and he goes to Geshur for how long? How long did he run away and stay? 3 years. Again, we don't know what happened in all those years. You see, these things didn't happen in a week or two, or even 6 months, or even a year. So he's gone for 3 years, and David longed to see him. And so Joab, remember Joab? Joab's not exactly in great favor with David at this point because he murdered Abner. Joab realizes that David really wants to see Absalom, and Absalom has been gone for 3 years. Joab cooks up a scheme to get David to ask Absalom to come home. You know, this thing just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Joab actually hired a woman to lie and act like she lost 2 sons in a fight, that one son killed the other one in a fight. So she comes, appears before the king, and we're cutting it short here, and she basically says, one of my sons killed the other one in a fight, and oh, woe is me, because everybody wants to kill my other son, and my life is destroyed. Please help me. And David is very sympathetic to her, and he ends up telling her, I'll help you, I'll take care of this. And he even says, not a hair on your head will be hurt. But she couldn't hold herself back. She just keeps talking. And she says, well, now you know, you've got a son who killed a son who is away. So you're also in this boat. Now, I'm really, really reducing this to its lowest terms. I hope you've read these chapters. It's very, very, very interesting. It's like reading a novel, but it's God's truth. It's really like reading. They say you couldn't make this up. You know, John Grisham couldn't have made this up, okay? But, you know, we have this situation here where she just can't stop talking. And David says, wait a minute. Did Joab put you up to this? He saw through it. Did Joab put you up to this? And she said, yes, he did. But it worked. The scheme worked. Absalom comes back. But he doesn't see David's face for how long? David, 2 years. David said, I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him. He longed to see him, but I don't want to see him. This whole cover-up is still, everything's just ebbing and flowing. I don't want to see it. So he comes back, and for 2 years, he doesn't see him. Doesn't see his face for 2 years. In the middle of all this, excuse me for just rambling, there's so much to cover here, he gets upset at Joab. He blames Joab for the fact that David still won't see him. And Joab won't talk to him. Joab will not. He just shuns him. He won't talk to him. And so he says, okay, my servants, go do what? Go burn his farm. Go burn his barley. Go burn his field, his crops. Which I think it's interesting that a military guy had a farm and had crops. That's, they got servants, they got people. These guys are all rich. Go burn his crops. And Joab says, well, why did you burn my fields? Because I still haven't seen my father. It's been 5 years. Now, that's a lot to cover, and we got to keep going, but if you have a comment or a question, please jump in.
I was just going to mention Absalom says, now therefore let me see the king's face, but if there's iniquity in me, let him execute.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever the fate is.
Whatever it is, I want to see my father. Yes, absolutely. I want to see my father. So he does. He does get to see his father. And then we have a whole other ugly chapter coming up. Absalom starts hanging around the gate, giving advice. He gets a feel for power. These are Mickey's comments. He gets a feel for power. He starts counseling people with problems. He starts pulling them in. He's doing this in a very, very crafty, slick kind of way. Kind of reminds me of a politician. He's pulling them in. He's pulling them in, and he's gaining favor with all these people. David doesn't know it. He doesn't understand it. And so really, he got very serious. And Absalom decides he will be what? I'm going to be king instead of my father. And he was ready to kill his father. What did God say? The sword will never depart from your house. It's God's power. It's God's providence. This whole story is God. So Absalom ends up gaining so much favor with all the people that they begin to go to him and support him. And things are really, really looking bad. Because what we have here is the peace that was in the land. Remember when Israel and Judah quarreled, and remember the 12 men who fought and they all died, they all stabbed each other, and this is when Abner killed the swift-running Asahel, who chased Abner, and then Joab ends up killing Abner and falls out of favor, and all that happened. But after that, things got calm. David had things good. The country was at peace. They were winning victories, and then the Bathsheba thing happened. And all of this happened. The way of the transgressor is what? It's hard. It's hard. And so now we got an insurrection. And now the country's we got civil war all over again. And the son whom David loved is trying to destroy his father and take over. What a story. Any comments about that?
If you think about it, Absalom, his sister was not avenged by the king.
Right.
The king didn't do the right thing. And when you go to chapter 12, when he repents, and you look at 10 and 11, now therefore the sword shall never depart from thy house, because thou hast despised me and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up evil against thee out of thy own house, and I will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto the neighbor, and he shall lie with thy wives in the side.
In
God told him what was going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
David literally became a pretty bad king after that, as far as doing what kings should do.
The wheels fell off.
Yeah.
The wheels fell off the wagon for David. And this is a really, really bad piece of history in the Bible. But it confirms the truth of the Bible. All these things were written for our learning. The good, the bad, the ugly. We've said it before. Peter was a great apostle. He was a great teacher and preacher, day of Pentecost. But shortly before that, 50 days before that, he denied Christ 3 times. I don't know the man. He even cursed and denied him. The Bible tells us all. Tells us every story. That's what makes it so impressively true. Now,
10 minutes.
you read 10 minutes. You read about God says, "You have despised me." Woe unto us if that can ever be said, that we despise God. You see. But in the end, David is forgiven. But he sure pays a price. So you got this uprising, and it's getting bad. It's getting really bad. We got 10 minutes to move along here. David actually becomes very, very concerned. And he's warned, Absalom is coming for you. I'm skipping over. You've read these chapters, and we're trying to touch the highlights here. It gets so bad that David and his people, we're in civil war now, and they're fleeing. They're fleeing. But David said, we're going to put the ark where it belongs. We're going to leave the ark in Jerusalem. And as David was fleeing, a foreigner named Ittai, I-T-T-A-I, was going with them. It's an interesting section there. Go back and read that. And David says, why are you going? You don't have to get caught up in this thing. You're not even of us. You're a foreigner. You don't have to do this. But Ittai said, oh, I do. I'm loyal to you, and I am going with you. I'm glad they put that in there, because David's got some allegiance, and there's some loyalty there, even from a foreigner like Ittai.
There's also the tidbit, you just came yesterday.
Yeah, he said, yeah.
It may have been a little bit longer than that, but that's
Yeah,
what it said.
you just got here. You don't have to fight this fight. You don't have to get caught up in this. It was good of David to try to let him off the hook, but Ittai said, I'm with you. I am with you. Now let's skip down, and we're skipping a lot, but the clock keeper says our time's, hey, that clock's wrong, isn't it? Are we down to 5 minutes?
6.
6 minutes. All right, good. There's 2 advisors that come into play here. Ahithophel, an advisor to David, and Hushai, an advisor to David. Ahithophel, by the way, remember your family? Ahithophel is Bathsheba's grandfather. Bathsheba's grandfather is going to get caught up in all this. And David knows that he is advising Absalom. Ahithophel has really gone to the side of Absalom. That's hard to understand. Maybe because of Bathsheba. Maybe he resents David. We don't know. But Ahithophel goes that way. And David senses that. And so he sends Hushai, another advisor, as a spy. Go over there and get involved and advise and counsel Absalom, and get back to me and let me know what's going on, because things are really bad. So you have the advice of Ahithophel and you have the advice of Hushai, both who have been advisors of David, one who has deserted David and is now loyal to Absalom, believe it or not, and then Hushai, who is sent as a spy. And they both give Absalom advice. And things are close to a massive battle where 20,000 men died. Big time battle. And the advice of Ahithophel, I'm saying all the, I'll probably get some of these names wrong. I don't know. The advice of Ahithophel was, look, they're weak. They're tired. Go now. Attack now, and they will just run away and you can have David. He said, I'll even kill him for you. Can you believe that? Ahithophel actually said, I'll get him for you. They'll just run away and desert him. But Hushai gave a little bit of different advice. He couldn't advise Absalom too much the other way, or Absalom would have known that he was an agent for David. But Hushai's advice was, attack now. Attack now. No, his advice was, don't attack now. David's probably hid out somewhere. Excuse me. These are two real close advices, by the way. He says, David's probably hiding somewhere. Get your forces together and you'll be able to take them. Okay. Which advice did Absalom take? Hushai's advice. And so Ahithophel did what? He went home, got his affairs in order, and killed himself. That's how upset he was about all this. Hushai goes back to David and said, okay, y'all leave because they're coming. Get across the river. Get across the river. They are coming. So this is all the providence of God. And so they cross the river, and then this horrible battle occurs in the wilderness. Eli, it reminds me of in Virginia, the wilderness, the battle in the wilderness. Because you remember in the Civil War and the battle in the wilderness, fires got set by all the cannon and everything, and you remember a lot of soldiers died not from fire, not from gunfire, but from literal fire, and they perished with thirst and hunger. The Bible says that in this battle 20,000 people died, but more of them died from the wilderness than they did from the battle. So it was ugly. It was real bad. They were dropping from thirst and hunger and the battle itself. 20,000. We're not going to have time to get to the death of Absalom, but we'll say this before the bell rings. Absalom was in the thick of all this, and he wanted to kill his father. David gave special instructions not to what? Don't harm Absalom. Protect Absalom. Can you imagine? Absalom would kill him in a second. But don't harm Absalom. That was his instruction. Take care of my son Absalom. And so Absalom is riding a mule in the battle. He has this long, beautiful hair, and he is a handsome man without any blemish. He cuts his hair every year, and it weighed 5 pounds. Now that's a lot of hair. Every year, King James says he polled his hair. Reminds me, Hereford cattle, you got Herefords with horns, and then you got pole Herefords. They don't have horns. Well, he polled his hair every year, 5 pounds. Anyway, we'll start next week's lesson. He's riding his mule, and his hair is flying, and what happens?
He's caught up in an oak tree.
Hung him up in a tree. The power of God. So he's hanging there by his hair, and he's about to die. You've been so patient. I wish we could just keep going, but we're finishing next week. There's another son, by the way. There's another son who wants to be king. And he's about as evil as Absalom. The way of the transgressor is hard. Thank you.